She was already standing there when I came home, arms crossed. Eyes burning like she owned the whole street. "You can't lock that gate," she shouted before I could even park my truck. I looked at her, confused, holding the padlock in my hand. "Karen, this is my property," I said, trying to stay calm. But calm was the last thing she wanted. She stormed closer, snapping pictures with her phone like some kind of neighborhood detective. "I told you, this is against HOA rules. We all agreed no locked gates." Her voice echoed down the quiet suburban road. A couple of neighbors peeked through their blinds. I hadn't even joined the HOA. That's what made it insane. Her teenage son was standing on their porch, holding a soda, watching everything with this mix of fear and amusement. Then she yelled, "Ethan, call 911. He's threatening me." The kid froze for a second, then actually dialed. I couldn't believe it. "Threatening you?" "I'm just locking my gate," I said, shaking my head. But she was already pacing, rehearsing her victim story like she'd done this before. I kept quiet, turned my key in the lock, and shut the gate anyway. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "You think you can do whatever you want just because you bought that land? The HOA will handle you." I smiled a little, because she didn't know the truth. There was no HOA here. I bought this land outside their boundary 2 years ago. But she kept pushing the fake rules to control everyone nearby. Minutes later, 2 police cars pulled up, lights flashing across my yard. Her son looked nervous now. She ran toward them, waving her arms, yelling, "That's him. He's aggressive. He locked me out of my own neighborhood." The officer approached me, hand on his holster. "Sir, we got a call about a disturbance," mind explaining. I looked him straight in the eye and said, "Sure. But first, can you ask her where the HOA law ends? Because she's standing 10 feet inside my property line." The cop hesitated. Karen's face turned red. "That's not true," she yelled. "The HOA covers this whole street." The officer turned toward his car. "We'll check the records," he said calmly. Karen started stuttering. Her son looked down, embarrassed. I leaned on my fence and said softly, "Maybe next time. You teach your boy the truth before you make him call the cops on your neighbor." The real twist. The officer recognized me. His voice lowered as he glanced at my truck's license plate. "You're Captain Miller, right? Retired." Karen's face went pale. And I just smiled. "Yes, sir. Retired, but still guarding my own land." She called 911 because I locked my own gate, but she didn't know who she was dealing with. The moment the officer said my name, everything changed. His tone softened. His hand moved away from his holster. And even his partner stepped back a little. Karen noticed that shift, and it rattled her. "Wait. You know him?" she asked, trying to sound confident. But her voice cracked halfway through. The officer nodded slightly. "Yes, ma'am. Captain Miller served in the county's tactical unit for 15 years. He's not exactly new to following rules." Karen's mouth opened, but no words came out. Her son stood frozen beside her, still holding the phone, unsure if he should hang up or apologize. I could almost feel the air thicken around us. I crossed my arms, calm as ever. "Officer," I said, "this woman keeps posting fake HOA notices on my gate. Claims she runs this street. But this property is outside the HOA boundary line. I've got the deed and the survey in my truck." Karen jumped in, waving her hands. "He's lying. We all voted. This whole area is under HOA rules now. He doesn't get to just ignore them." The younger officer looked confused. "Ma'am, that's not how HOAs work. You can't vote someone into it if their property isn't part of the agreement." Her face turned redder. And she glared at me like she wanted to burn holes through my skin. "He's dangerous," she said suddenly. "He threatened me earlier." The older cop looked straight at me. "Did you?" I smiled a little, shaking my head. "No, sir. I told her I was locking my own gate, that's it. But I do have my body cam footage running, habit from my service days." That one line hit her like a bullet. Karen's eyes went wide. You record people. That's illegal. She shouted. Panicking, I shrugged. Not on my property, it isn't. Her son tugged at her sleeve. Mom, maybe we should just go. He whispered, but she yanked her arm away, humiliated and angry. No. He's not going to get away with this. The officer took a step closer to her. Ma'am. Unless you can show me legal HOA documents that include his land, I'm going to have to ask you to leave him alone. She blinked fast. Looking around like she expected backup to show up out of nowhere, none came. Her little empire was collapsing right there in her own neighborhood. I could have walked away right then, but something in me wanted to see it through. Actually. Officer, I said quietly. I think it's time someone checked those fake HOA letters she's been putting on everyone's doors. Karen's head snapped toward me. You can't prove that. I reached into my truck, pulled out a small folder, and handed it over. Every single one of them, I said. With her name signed at the bottom. The cop's eyebrows went up. You've been collecting evidence. The officer flipped through the folder slowly, each page hitting harder than the last. Karen stood there trembling, her confidence cracking with every fake notice he read out loud. Violation of property code. Unauthorized structure. Fine of $500 per day. He muttered, raising an eyebrow. You wrote these. Karen's voice came out shaky but loud. Someone had to keep order around here. The HOA president moved last year, and no one was doing anything. I was just helping. The younger officer exchanged a glance with his partner. Helping by forging official documents, ma'am. Her son looked horrified. Mom, you wrote those. I thought you said they were real. She turned to him, desperate. Ethan, honey, I did it for everyone. Look at this street, people are ruining it. I leaned against my truck, calm but sharp. Ruining it. You trespassed on people's land. You fined a veteran's widow for painting her fence. You even tried to have a family evicted for putting up Christmas lights. The older cop's face hardened. We'll need to take those papers in. This looks like impersonation of a public organization, maybe even fraud. Karen's breath quickened. Wait, no. You can't arrest me for trying to protect the neighborhood. I said quietly, you didn't protect it. You controlled it. Her son stepped back from her, his voice small. Mom, you made me call 911 on an innocent man. That hit her. For a split second, the fight in her eyes flickered out, replaced by something close to panic. She turned toward the officers again, her words tumbling out fast. Please, this is a misunderstanding. He's twisting everything. He's dangerous, you saw his camera, he's probably recording us right now. The cop nodded. That's fine, ma'am. We'll check the footage. If it shows he was calm and you made false claims, that'll speak for itself. Karen froze. She knew exactly what that footage would show. I reached into my pocket, clicked my small chem device, and said, already saved and time-stamped. Want me to send you a copy, officer? He smiled slightly. Yes, please do. Then, turning to Karen, he said, Ma'am, you're going to need to come with us for a few questions. Her face went white. You can't do this. You don't understand, I am the HOA. She screamed as they gently led her toward the cruiser. I watched her son stand there, silent, staring at the flashing lights reflecting off the metal gate she had tried so hard to control. He looked lost, almost broken. I walked up to him quietly. Hey, I said softly. None of this is your fault. You just did what your mom told you. He nodded slowly, tears in his eyes. I didn't know she was lying. I gave him a small pat on the shoulder. Truth always catches up, kid. Sometimes faster than you think. She called the cops to take my freedom, but the truth took hers instead. Karen was taken away that afternoon, still shouting through the open window of the police cruiser about rules, respect, and her neighborhood. But the words had lost their power. The neighbors, who once hid behind curtains, stepped outside quietly, watching the car disappear down the street. For the first time in months, the whole place felt calm. The younger officer came back to hand me my folder. "Captain, we'll file this under property fraud and impersonation of an HOA official. You did the right thing keeping these records." I nodded, but my eyes were on Karen's son. He sat on the curb, his hoodie pulled tight, head down. I walked over, crouched beside him. "You got family to stay with?" He nodded weakly. "My aunt lives 2 blocks away. I think she'll take me." "Good," I said. "You don't have to carry your mom's mistakes. Sometimes people lose themselves in control. They forget what being right really means." He looked up at me, his voice trembling. "She thought she was helping. She said people don't respect rules anymore." I sighed. "Rules don't mean anything if they're built on lies, kid." The sun was setting now, washing the street in a soft orange glow. The padlock on my gate caught the light, gleaming like a quiet victory. I took one last look at the empty space where Karen had stood yelling earlier. There was no satisfaction in seeing her go, just a strange kind of peace. That night, I sat on my porch with a cup of coffee, scrolling through the footage on my tablet. Everything was clear: the shouting, the fake papers. The moment truth flipped the whole scene upside down. I saved the file under one name: Proof of Freedom. The next morning, the neighborhood was buzzing. News had spread fast. People started knocking on my gate, one by one, apologizing for believing her stories. "We thought she had real authority," one man said. "Didn't know she made it all up." I smiled lightly. "Now you do. No one owns your peace but you." A few days later, I got a call from the sheriff's office. Karen had been charged with impersonating a legal entity, filing false reports, and harassment. Her son was staying with relatives. The fake HOA she built officially dissolved. Before hanging up, the sheriff said something that stuck with me: "Funny thing. Captain, you built a fence to protect your home. Turns out, it protected your whole neighborhood." I looked out across my yard, the wind brushing the flag by my porch. It fluttered steady, proud, free. Because in the end, this wasn't just about a locked gate, it was about standing your ground when someone tries to take what's yours. She tried to own my gate, my land, and my name, but freedom doesn't answer to fake authority.